This is Alan Posey's presentation for MAT621. It's entitled Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Factors Affecting Education in the Countries of New Zealand, Singapore, and Canada. This project looks at the cultural, linguistic, and religious factors in education and focuses on the countries of New Zealand, Singapore, and Canada. There is an analysis of these countries' approaches to accommodating those factors with specific applications to the United States educational system. First, we'll begin with New Zealand. If you look at the ethnicities in New Zealand, 3/4 of it are of European descent, and the Maori, the native Polynesian tribe of New Zealand, is about 15 to 16%, with Asian being the next biggest part of the population at 12%. Again, the Maori are the native people of the island country of New Zealand. If you look at the cultural factors affecting New Zealand, the Kurakapa Maori are schools that teach in Maori, and the education is based on Maori culture and values. They are owned and funded by the state, and they teach the national curriculum for Maori medium schools. Many of the schools are composite schools. They have both primary and secondary departments. So they teach kindergarten through 12th grade. And they teach in the Maori language, the native tongue of the Polynesian tribe, Maori. The linguistic factors affecting New Zealand are that New Zealand has 3 official languages. They have English, the Maori language, and New Zealand Sign Language. And the official language of the government that most of the governmental work gets done in is English. The religions of New Zealand include almost half are Christian, mostly Roman Catholic from when the Europeans colonized the island of New Zealand, with less than 3% of the rest being Hindu, Buddhist, Maori Christian, or Islam. The next country I want to look at is Singapore. Singapore uses the saying unity and diversity. They pride themselves on their diversity, and they think that that makes them stronger, and that's what the government asserts to the people of Singapore. They're about 3/4 Chinese descent, 13% Malays, 9% of Indian descent, and they really use their diversity as a means to build national pride. So if you look at the culture that's built into the citizenship education that takes place from very early pre-primary school level, is they really build their citizens up with national pride for the country of Singapore. Their families and religious backgrounds teach them that they need to take pride in themselves and the work that they do, and they apply that to education. So they're very effort oriented, which means they seek to get a lot out of education, and they're there and they do their best, and they want to make their family proud. So if you look at Singapore, if you look at their languages, the official languages are Mandarin, English, Malay, and Tamil, with the majority of the schools teaching in English, because they use that as a business language, as Singapore is a force in the world business markets. In public schools, all religions are embraced in a practice of unity for diversity. And if you look at the breakdown of the religions in Singapore, Buddhist is the largest, 34%, but there's 5 to 6 other religions that are about equally represented if you look at them as a percentage of the overall population. And they also have a lower percentage than the United States that are non-religious. The next country I'm going to look at is Canada. Canada is about a quarter of French descent and a little bit more than that of British descent. And they proclaim to be about 26% of mixed background, 15% other European, so almost 3/4 originate from Europe. And one of the bigger growing populations of the last 15 years is the Arab population. So if you look at the culture of Canada, it has a lot of different influences. One of those being the British, the French. French is one of their national adopted languages, and also their neighbors to the south, the American. They have a big impact on culture in Canada. Another impact is that of the First Nations movement, which is the Aboriginal population to the native people that originated within the country of Canada. They have a big part, and they play into the educational background, as well as there's many First Nations schools and charter type schools throughout the country of Canada, especially as you go farther north. And another factor of culture is the immigration, as Canada embraces immigration, and their educational system has been adapting to that, as there's been a large increase of Hispanic and Arab people over the last 15 years or so. If you look at the language part of Canada, educationally, the official language is English and French, and that was established by the government in 1972. But the Home Language Survey, there's over 200 different languages spoken within the borders of Canada. And like I mentioned earlier, the biggest growing language, use of language, is that of Arabic and Spanish, as they have a large increase in those ethnicities due to immigration. And also 20%, almost 1 in 5, speak 2 or more languages. They're multilingual, and that's encouraged throughout the educational system. If you look at religion, Peters 1998 stated that Canada's Catholic churches have played a leading and complementary role in the development of educational structures across the country. And if you look at from 1971 to 2011, if you look on the far right over here, there's been a huge increase in people that do not identify as being religiously affiliated with any one group. And also other religions have been growing. Well, at the same time, over on the left of the chart, the Protestants has decreased significantly, and the Catholic is continuing to decrease. So, if that continues, it looks like there's going to be a larger population of other religions, as well as unreligious people within the borders of Canada. So if we look at all those 3 countries and their implications on the United States and our own educational system, I want you to take away these last four statements of mine, is that the United States should increase their multilingual educational program and opportunities. They should provide more opportunities for languages so that we can better compete on a world market within our own educational systems. We have a lot of immigration, a lot of people that speak different languages. We should teach that within the school districts and focus on different languages. And second, we should build a culture of responsibility, like in Singapore. There's a lot of inner city type areas that are socially disadvantaged, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and if we can get some kind of help to build up and take responsibility for what you're doing, that will encourage the schools and the people in school to do better. And third, we should develop an intrinsic drive for educational attainment, this would kind of go along with the second one. If you take responsibility for your own actions, people are going to want to, strive to do better and become more educated in that. But that needs to be built, you know, at home and outside of. That's kind of the educational system has a large role in that, but it's has to do with more with community. And the last thing that the United States need to do is create a culture of inclusion. We saw in New Zealand that the Maori tribes, there's been a huge push in there. There's a lot more educational opportunities for them. And as our continent of the United States gets more diverse, we should encourage everyone to be involved and to succeed. And these are my references. Thank you.